Yo, Havoc Nation has arrived. What's going on, everybody? Los Angel of Havoc here, aka Tato, the one and only high priest of the congregation. Welcome back to Tato Clips, where we've got a little bit of everything. Maskless ones. In today's video, we'll be going over everything you need to know when starting out in Enotria, the last song. Now, I recognize I may have mentioned some of these points in prior videos, as I've made a couple on the game so far, but I wanted to put together a more organized guide for those of you who are just picking up the game. Now, before we begin, I highly recommend completing the tutorial when starting out a new playthrough. It's a solid introduction to the core gameplay mechanics and could be very helpful if this also happens to be your first time playing a Souls-like game. First off, Enotria has two difficulty settings. Story mode, which allows players to comfortably experience the story while not having to worry about struggling through the mechanics or combat. Story mode is recommended for newer players to the genre. Then there's Souls-like mode, which is how the game was intended to be played in all of its Dark Souls-inspired glory. Souls-like mode is recommended for any veterans already familiar with these kinds of games. Moving on, we've got to talk about unraveling and parrying. The most fundamental aspect of Enotria's combat is unraveling. Every enemy and boss has an unraveling meter accompanying their health bar. When fully unraveled, the enemy will be staggered momentarily, leaving them exposed to a finishing blow. Finishing blows deal massive amounts of damage and can even mean getting the upper hand in a boss fight. The unraveling meter can be built up by dealing damage or parrying. The preparedness perk that you begin the game with also allows you to slightly build up an enemy's unraveling meter by dodging their attacks. Well-timed blocks will result in a parry, and most attacks in the game can be parried, even ranged ones. Actually, parrying ranged attacks for lower level enemies can instantly unravel them, and parrying is also something that can be built into somewhat through the use of parry gems. Parry gems can be equipped to your loadout and will affect your damage negation while parrying. You begin the game with 3, and more can be acquired throughout your playthrough. Moving on, we have to talk about Adore Burst, Reality, and Combat Rifts. Red combat rifts appear in the world and players can interact with them. Once they're unlocked, they will begin a challenge encounter or even a boss fight wherein all enemies must be defeated in order to clear the challenge. Completing combat rifts can unlock hidden items or paths that the maskless one needs in order to progress through an area. Reality rifts are yellow and can be found throughout the world and are typically associated with traversal. Some are temporary and will disappear after a period of time or will reset when you rest at a reality knot. Reality rifts can also deactivate once you've passed through their area of effect. Lastly, there can be some ground areas or walls that will be colored in yellow Adore, and these areas can be broken through the use of Adore bursts, and they will typically lead to shortcuts or hidden items that are otherwise inaccessible. Next up, we're going to be talking about Enotria's healing. Enotria's main healing item is the Armonia Amber. You begin the game with 5 charges of the Armonia Amber, and collecting Armonia amplifiers throughout the game will strengthen the healing effect, while collecting Armonia expansions will increase the number of uses you get. Armonia Amber charges can be replenished when resting at a reality knot. Next, let's talk about loadouts. A loadout is made up of masks, gems, perks, aspects, weapons, and items. Maskless ones can have up to 3 different loadouts set up at a time. Weapons and items can be swapped out on the fly in the inventory screen, while masks, gems, lines, perks, and aspects all must be changed at a reality knot. After the tutorial, or if you skip it, you begin the game with 13 weapons, 2 masks, 3 mask lines, 6 perks unlocked with 2 equipped, 5 aspects, and 3 parry gems in total. This allows you to decide on a multitude of build ideas when you're just beginning your journey through the Canavacchio. Let's talk about masks, shall we? Masks are the centerpiece of your loadout. You start the game with 2 in your inventory. Each mask provides different benefits, such as increasing the amount of Armonia Amber charges you have or increasing your physical and status power. Some masks can be acquired immediately upon defeating bosses, while others must be obtained through collecting mask shards, which will drop from defeated enemies. Next, let's talk mask lines. Mask lines are an extra aspect to Enotria's combat system and function like spells. Up to 4 can be equipped per loadout. Mask lines offer melee and ranged combat options, and I'll be covering them in detail in a future video. Lines can be acquired by exploring the world, completing combat rifts, and/or defeating bosses and mini-bosses. Next, we're going to be discussing aspects. Aspects are a part of your loadout that adjust your stats, or virtues as they're called in Enotria. Some aspects boost certain stats while adding penalties to others. Equipping an aspect can help with achieving whatever stat requirements are needed to equip a certain mask or mask line and/or weapons. Aspects can be acquired while exploring the world, defeating bosses, or completing quest lines. Now we're going to be discussing perks and the path of innovations. Perks are special effects that you can add to your build to enhance your combat abilities. Up to 6 perks can be equipped per loadout. Perks are unlocked using inspiration points on the path of innovations, which can be accessed via reality knots. Inspiration points can be found by defeating enemies, gaining experience, or picking up blue item pickups that can be found throughout the world. Moving on, we've got to talk about Memoria. Enotria's main currency is Memoria. Memoria is used for leveling up your stats, purchasing items, and upgrading weapons, lines, and masks. Like other Souls-likes, when you die, your Memoria drops at the location of your death, and you have to make your way back to that spot to get it. If you die before retrieving your lost Memoria, it will be gone forever. Memoria is earned primarily through defeating enemies, but can also be gained from consumables or selling items like valuable shells, which can be farmed from enemies. And last but not least, we've got to talk about reality knots. Reality knots are Enotria's checkpoint and save system. In addition, reality knots can also allow you to level up your stats, change your loadouts, access the path of innovations to unlock new perks, and fast travel. Also, nearby some reality knots, there will also be a smithing anvil where you can upgrade your weapons, mask lines, and masks. And that about does it for today's getting started video for Enotria The Last Song. This is the first in a series of guides I have scripted out and planned for Enotria, so be sure to stay tuned. If you guys enjoyed this video or if you found it helpful in any way, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. It's a little bit, but it does go a long way in terms of helping the channel grow. If you like what I do here on the channel or you want to see more content like this, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. My name is Los Angeles Havoc. Thank you for watching Late Tato Clips. We will see you next time, friends. Same late time, same late channel.